Welcome back everyone from around the world. I'm Emily Pankhurst, joined with Thomas Jefferson, and you are watching the World Revolution News. Today is August the 5th, 2011.
Today, the focus will be with Israel, and the protest that is growing in size, despite the lack of coverage by the media, and picking up more momentum faster than anyone had initially expected. We first reported on an Israel protest back on the June 10th episode here. But the recent uprising has a new story that is definitely worth telling.
Daphne Leaf, a 25-year-old video editor, was sick and tired of the high rents that she couldn't afford to pay any longer. So she went on Facebook and called upon some other people her age to join her on Tel Aviv Rothschild Boulevard to set up some tents and impose a possible protest. To her surprise, thousands, first in Tel Aviv, then across the country, joined her with a number of related causes that included mothers demanding affordable childcare and doctors seeking reasonable pay and hours. The uprising then swelled to 114,000 protesters on Saturday in Israel, featuring 40 tent cities that have been propped up around the country. A gigantic tent city in downtown Tel Aviv is now home to hundreds of protesters. They are mainly middle-class urbanites, angry at the rapidly rising cost of living and at Tel Aviv's lack of affordable housing. These protest campers are regularly joined by tens of thousands of marchers. Sister demonstrations rose up in Jerusalem and provincial cities like Haifa and Beersheba. Doctors and farmers are joining by the thousands and have announced that they are striking or protesting. Protesters issued a list of demands, including free education, lower housing, improved medical care and a long list of other complaints that it wants solved through open and direct talks with Benjamin Netanyahu. What many people don't realize though, is salaries in Israel are among the lowest of any industrialized nation, while housing costs in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem are equal to American cities like Atlanta and Seattle. Food costs that have been a staple in all the revolutions this year have also risen drastically over the past few years. Unemployment in Israel stands at 5.7%, which is comparably low to other Western nations. The recent economic growth has many political people scratching their heads as to why this protest is rising in enthusiasm. Due to the low salaries in Israel, banks and credit reign supreme. The central banks and retailers commonly encourage customers to pay for all large purchases in set, monthly installments. They are running on paycheck to paycheck, and credit extension takes on a whole new meaning. For example, a supermarket customer in Israel can easily pay for a $50 purchase in 3 installments. Israeli wallets are now stretched even more by monthly credit card payments that commonly exceed the average American credit card bill. This has led to the middle-class people to becoming increasingly angry and has created a common background under which to unite. The common thread amongst these 10 cities is they are families with children, middle-aged professionals, and seniors from the mainstream political parties. They share the same demographic. Middle class. Claudio Gigliara, an Israel correspondent for the Italian television network RAI, has been on a segment in Jerusalem for the past 8 years and had said the following: "I was expecting this for quite some time. I'd ask myself, why don't they go to the street? We are talking about the people who have made Israel the economic and security success it is. These are young, hard-working people, high-tech guys, educated people, and the fruits of their labor go to minority interests that basically have been blackmailing this country for years. The ultra-Orthodox and the settlers aren't a majority in this country. But because of party calculations, politicians are completely beholden to them. So you have these hard-working, super successful guys, and they have to send their kids to classes with 40 kids in them. That's not the way a prosperous country is supposed to work." End quote. And when the middle class actually stands up and begins to voice their opposition, their leaders are quick to adhere. Pretty much everyone, from Prime Minister Netanyahu to the top 10 billionaires there, who hold the bulk of Israel's industrial assets, admit that the grumblings are justified. Stanley Fischer, governor of the central bank, maintains that the social demands of the protesters would cost around $60 billion. Media who have broken down the numbers plus data published by Israel's central bank and the Ministry of Finance indicate that state banks could compensate. On Monday, Fisher, who was hailed as a savior when it came to protecting Israel's economic growth recently, when the world was getting beat down by the economic crisis, he had cited a feeling of surprise at the force for the protests. He went on to say that economic indicators are excellent. Unemployment hasn't been this low since 1972. End quote.
What Stanley is failing to realize, and what thousands are waking up to every day, is the fact that the central banking cartel that he represents is getting overthrown across the globe. From here at World Revolution News, we give a sincere nod of approval to the middle class of Israel and their uprising against their central bank. Tomorrow, they are trying to gather 1 million people in a united protest against the powers that be. With yesterday's stock market fall, European debt crisis boiling, attempted revolutionary massacres, and the projected 500,000 people near starvation in the Horn of Africa, one has to wonder not only how quickly events could unravel, but how the historical unprecedented times that we live in is relatively unknown to the people amongst us. So spread the word about the World Revolution News to anyone that will listen. And remember, as always, it's the United Banking Cartel versus us, and not me versus you, for we are the many, and they are the few.